Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Erotic Wisdom, the fascinating wonderment of living in a body. I am Mrs. Love, your host, and today the Laboratory of Love is taking place at the house of my wonderful guest, nonetheless my divine friend, Alex, cousin or Shwen. I didn't ask you how would you like to be introduced.
Cousins, as the married woman that I am.
Fantastic. Mrs. Cousin.
Mrs. Cousins.
So here we are in Cape Town at Alex's house, and we're going to have another wonderful conversation. And I thought today to bring to you this conversation about the Eros of Fasting. So Alex is much experience in the realm of long detoxification, cellular detoxification, and she's been a great mentor for me in this realm. And I just thought, let's see what this conversation wants to bring about. But because, of course, my theme is around Eros and eroticism, and I actually have witnessed in your life. I've known Alex for about 17 years. Mm-hmm. And we both are immigrants in Cape Town. And so we've seen each other going through so much. We met each other, we were single, she was unmarried, and we weren't mother. And now we're sitting both mother. Our girls are born actually a week apart. So we were pregnant together at the same time. And lots of life has happened. But I have to say that I've never seen you so in your erotic embodiment than when you started to work with the fast. Yeah. And I really saw your body flow with you and dance with you, and you really penetrating yourself, if you want to lose this language. And so I really witnessed the erotic embodiment that happened when we fast. Mm-hmm. Would you like, is it the same for you? Would you like to speak about this?
Yes, in fact, a couple of days ago, whenever I read a post that you did where you spoke about, I think it was the first podcast where you spoke about the real joy of being in a body and this infinite exploration of being in a body, the fascinating wonderment of being in a body. And it's so reverberated through my body because that's the truth that I touched upon through fasting. And I feel like I had been looking for that connection and for that embodied experience in my body for so many years through yoga and meditation and dancing and, all these activities that I chased in all corners of the world. And I never ever thought that fasting would bring that to me. In fact, I would say I was the last person that would ever think of herself as a fasting expert. If somebody would have asked me 10 years ago, will you ever be a fasting expert? I would have said anything else but that. And so the fact that now I'm sitting here and I'm teaching fasting and detoxification is like, wow, how did that happen? But
the fascinating wonderment.
Yes, the fascinating wonderment that brought me to this. And through fasting, I really discovered, as you said, the eros of life. And so how did it happen? Well, I think it's in the emptiness. I think for me, also coming from a history of eating disorder, 30 years of eating disorder, quite severe at times. Again, the paradoxes that I found, what I was looking for, not in food, but in the absence of food, but also in the not punishing absence of food, which it could have been because of my history. And rather, I discovered the freedom of not needing to eat or not needing to be attached to food. And then what opens up in my beingness when food is not there to distract me. I think that was the big aha moment, you know?
And so what happened in your being when you're not distracted?
it's this feeling everything, feeling all of life, feeling my emptiness, and in the emptiness, feeling the totality. So all these things that I read about, that in many ways also you spoke about, and that I always looked at you and I thought, wow, maybe one day I will experience that too. And I couldn't really grasp it. It was like, how do you go and experience that? You know, even sexually, funny enough. Sexually, you know, I mean, I did some tantric work here and there. I would dip in and out, and somehow it never really got me to where I wanted to go. And then the fasting did it.
Yeah.
And through the fasting, which even though fasting initially, you know, because I started really fasting with my husband, we both did 40 days and 21 days and so forth. And so even though at first in the fasting journey, the libido completely vanished, which is very normal. But even in that vanishing of the libido, there was an eros there.
Yes.
Of just lying naked, side by side, baking in the sun because we were freezing, because we were fasting. And this being so quiet, so empty, so full together, and knowing where each other was. And that we were complete. Yeah. And in that, something opened up. And you know, in fact, I would go as far as saying it has changed our marriage, because as much as our marriage has been always beautiful and sweet, many times we felt that the missing link of our marriage was the passion or the sexual connection. And at some point we thought, well, you know, we have everything else. Maybe this is just something that, you know, is just not our thing. And more and more and more, which with each cycle of fasting and deep cleansing, we are actually finding a new kind of sexuality and eros that is so beautiful and playful and expansive. So it's really shifted us in major ways.
And also, like you say, you know, the libido drop at the beginning. And for me, you know, when I hear this word, it feels like it's another fix, like the food. I want to put something in my body, and sometimes sex becomes like this. I want to have another body inside my body, so maybe I get to know who I am, because this emptiness, it's unbearable. But the fast forces you to sit in that emptiness. You mentioned it just before. And then something happened there that is an erotic experience with reality. It's also not so much related to another human being. It's, for me, becomes the romance with life. You know, the erotic experience with wisdom. You know, sometimes I can get all eroticized by thoughts, by truth.
And life as it is. Life as it is. There's no romance. There's no story. There's no attachment. Yeah, what comes to mind also is that in this whole process, you know, and I use this sort of saying or phrase a lot, everything has received its rightful place. You know, there's no more questions or, well, there's questions, rather wonderments, but there's no more needing to know.
Yeah.
Whereas before I felt like I was always seeking. I was a seeker.
Yeah.
And I was a desperate seeker in some way. I was a hungry seeker. And there was this pushing on. And if it's not this course, then the next one. And if it's not this medicine journey, the next one. And healer and so forth. So there was always something to chase after. And now finally it feels like I have arrived into the river of life. And here I am, and I am, and I am, and I am, and there's no more desiring anything else but what is happening in the moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I can feel this. This is tangible. And I wanted to say earlier, when you were speaking about your fasting experience with Gary, and you know, about sexuality and erotic experience, that even, you know, without the partner, you as a human being always feel like you're having an orgasm. You do. You know, it's like with yourself. The way you talk, the way you walk, And I love that. This is, for me, is really inspiring, because I feel that part of me where I'm still seeking with a little bit of still desperation, that I'm still catching up my breath. And when you talk, you're so poised. It feels like you have arrived somewhere. You might not gonna
In
be here.
myself.
In yourself.
In myself.
Exactly.
I really feel that's what it is. It's this complete acceptance, also deep acceptance, which again came through the fasting, because in the fasting, I mean, you almost every day you change, and especially at the beginning of the fasting, where I lost a lot of weight, and I sort of towards the end of the fast, I really felt like I looked 20 years older. Everything was hanging, and I really saw the wrinkles, and everything was hanging and flabby, and at the time my hair was also falling out. So I mean, it was, I was trying to heal my body. That's really what got me onto this path in the first place, for those listening. And in that, I remember at once looking in the mirror, and I looked at myself without any criticism, from a neutral perspective, almost as if God was looking at Alex in the mirror. And I saw her, and then something entered, and it was like, yeah, right now she is ugly, but she has a right to be ugly too. There was something even erotic and empowering in going, fuck yeah, I have a right to be ugly. I don't need to be beautiful for anybody, not even for my husband.
Thank you. Wow,
I can just
peace. Yeah,
be.
The right to be ugly.
Yes.
It's such a freedom, such a liberation.
Yes, I feel that was such a turning point. And something sort of like shattered, of going like, well, I can be anything, because again, in the fasting, then as you refeed and then you fast another journey, like you lose weight, you gain some weight, you become puffy because certain foods don't agree with you. That's the learning path, and to no longer feel like you need to apologize for any of that, because it's like, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
This is my journey. I'm not doing this for my husband. I'm not doing this for the world out there, as much as I have my moments where I can fall into the illusion that I'm doing it for them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I know this is my intimate dance with my reality.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, what you're saying makes so much sense, because I had a few questions lined up for you, because your perspective is so enlightening, and I've been listening to other interviews that you have done before and some of your video. And so I was bringing the question to you, what is fear? Because I would like to hear from your perspective. We had a little chat earlier. Because in my experience, what you're saying, all the things we do for the other, because underneath it, there is the fear of being rejected or abandoned. So if I'm beautiful, I will be loved, I will be included, I will be part of a community, and then all be well. No, I'm meant to be loved by others. And there is this piece that, I could be ugly, but if I am here with me, then I'm always in bliss. I'm always in heaven. It wouldn't matter. And by paradox, when I then love myself, the other will feel the attraction to come towards me.
Absolutely.
Because I am rich within. Is the point we say with the erotic experience with your husband. You're not looking for something from him, but you're sharing from your fulfillment of being fully yourself. And now you can share it with another. So what would you say? This, I just say what fear, in my personal experience, what is fear for you? And because,
Well, I feel fear, ultimately our greatest fear, and I feel that's true for everybody, is that we all fear death. We all fear, I think that's ultimately, because yes, I know the fear of like, well, if I'm not beautiful enough, I'm going to be abandoned, but ultimately, and then I will die. Or I will die alone. So I feel the ultimate fear is the fear of death. And there also, through the process of fasting, and because again, when I started fasting, I was ill, I I so got in touch with the part of me that was so ill and weak. And I saw the possibility of death. I saw how, in fact, I saw how in some ways I had what I call the slayer in me that wanted to die because she didn't want to go through the effort of claiming the life that she truly wanted.
Oh yeah, I can relate to that.
Right?
Yeah.
So it seems so big. It seems so big and so hard to say, this and this and this is what I want. This is my dream, my specific dream, And it seemed so hard. And I realized when I saw that in myself, I realized, wow, my whole life, as much as I thought I was going after my dream, I was going after a substitute dream, because it was kind of like, well, the real dream I can't have, because that's like, who are you to have the real dream? So you can't have the real dream because it's too crazy, it's too far out there, it's not gonna be liked by many. But you can have the substitute dream, which at the time, you remember, I was in fashion, and so I was doing the $25,000 handbags, as if the world needs that. and I realized, oh my goodness, that was a substitute. And I was trying so hard because I thought, well, I can't have what I really want, but hey, at least I'll be a famous fashion designer. I do like fashion. I'll get to buy what I want. That's kind of satisfying, isn't it? I thought. And I'll get to travel and, but then I realized that's the substitution. And the substitution will never work, will never satisfy you. That is why we see all these, not all, but a lot of wealthy people unsatisfied, unhappy, bitter, resentful, right? It's because they're not going after what they truly want. They're going after the substitution dream.
And it's easier, no?
Yeah, because it's easier.
It takes a lot of courage to really go after the true dream.
Right, because the true dream is what in some ways you're willing to die for.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't willing to die for the handbags, but what I'm doing now, I'm fearless. And because I know that this is what I came here to do. And it's not that it's easy, it's hard, because I'm still continuously on a day-to-day basis in this reclamation of kind of like stomping my foot and saying, this is what I want. And it's a continuous redefining and refining it, But so fear is the fear of death, the fear of dying with our unrealized purpose. And that is what often I think makes us bitter, but then we chase after the wrong thing.
So let's go back to that piece you were sharing when in your crisis, in your personal crisis, you saw this slayer. It was prepared to kill you, to die.
Yes.
Because you weren't living your true dream, so might as well.
Yes.
Get out of
Well,
here.
I think the slayer was the part of me that thought, who do you think you are to be able to live your dream? Don't be ridiculous.
So what happened to get you out of there?
It was owning it. It was owning it and seeing how I had manifested my disease so that I could witness the slayer. And so that I could witness that my disease was self-manifest. And that it wasn't, and it shifted my whole concept around disease, because I grew up very hypochondriac. I was always hypochondriac, about anything. I was always sick with something in my mind. And once I realized that, hang on, actually, there is no such thing as disease. Disease is not something that comes from outside. It's always created from within. On one hand, from within through our emotions, which is a big part, And then even when we, of course, the foods that we eat or the chemicals that we get exposed, also, if you will, are in some ways self-created, because when you live in full alignment, you are not going to be exposed to certain elements. So it's almost like, sometimes people tell me, oh, but I was so unlucky, like I have heavy metal poisoning, or I lived in this apartment, it was moldy. And there, what I try and teach people is, well, but the fact that you were living in an apartment with mold already meant that you were not in your highest vibratory alignment. So this low frequency of mold was actually the friend that came to wake you up. So thank you, mold. Thank you, disease. Thank you, whatever it is.
It reflected the mold that was already living inside of them.
Yes.
It was the mirror.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's a big piece. This it really touches me. The biggest fear of fully living. That we think we fear death, and then when we explore, turns out we fear fully living our dream. It's a big piece. It's a paradox, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So, and tell me something about, I saw a post you wrote a few days ago about being being a divine human versus being a superhuman.
Yes.
How it is being divine human for you. What does it mean for you to
So
be
yeah,
divinely human?
This also, through this process of cleansing and so forth, where my learning has been, when we live in accordance to nature and we eat species specific foods, which are really fruit and vegetables, then, and we bring our body back to its quote original state, because in many ways, for so many generations we've been eating foods that are not in our divine human interest. Like, we've had to adapt, through industrialization and so forth, and migration, we've had to adapt to eat foods to survive. But just because we can survive on certain foods like grains and meats and dairy doesn't mean that we thrive on them. And at the same time, the body being so super adaptive as it is, we have learned to also, to a degree, thrive on them, but on a more mechanical sense. Because the reality is, in my experience and my studies, is that our endocrine system, which is really the seat, or rather the endocrine system is the motor slash filter for spirit. In other words, if our hypothalamus, if our pineal gland, which we talk about often in the spiritual world, if our pituitary gland and so forth, and adrenals, if they're not functioning optimally, then they are not going to be able to be the perfect antenna and transmitter for divine energy, for source energy.
Is this what you call the electric body also?
Yes. That's why we are an electric body.
I love that.
And so when the endocrine system is not working optimally, we are going to be like a bad radio station. The radio still works. The volume is loud, but it's a bit
disturbed.
It's disturbed. So it's like
we are very disturbed.
We're very disturbed.
The majority of us human.
We're very confused.
Very confused.
Because the message is like, we can't really, what is it? And because eating a predominantly animal-based diet, grain diet, which is all mucus forming, that is going to create disturbance in our radio system, in our electric body. And so no matter how hard we try, and this is personal experience, no matter how many yoga classes or medicine journeys, we're not going to be able to hold the frequency that is coming through from source. Source is always communicating with us, right?
Yeah.
And source, not just God, but nature. Nature is God. Nature is divine. Nature is infinitely wise. And so we won't be able to hear all these messages. And then we start thinking, as I did too, that there's special people out there that can deliver special messages, that can hear the plants or the wisdom of whatever. It's like, no, we all can. It's our complete natural state, being intuitive, knowing exactly what to do and when to do it. That's our natural state. It's not a superhuman quality.
Yeah, we're naturally.
We
have superpower naturally.
Yes.
Actually,
we just have shriveled. Literally, our glands, our glandular system is shriveled up. You know, I mean, we know that pineal gland is calcified, hypothalamus is shriveled up, thymus gland, etc. So it's really a glandular dysfunction that then leads to spiritual dysfunction, which then leads to personality dysfunction. And then we go and give it a label and we say, oh, he's a sociopath, she's a narcissist. But those are just labels that are, you know, from a mechanical standpoint. But the truth is actually we are spiritually disturbed and disconnected.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're not eating a human designed diet. And, you know, and that's where also I feel like I'm very non-dogmatic about this, because I feel like, you know, we can all handle 10-15% of poison. So if your delight is eating some cheese or a filler here and again, enjoy it, you know, like, or realize that you can. So it's not about being strictly vegan, strictly plant-based, but it's about understanding, how does your body work? What does it need to function optimally and to be a divine superconductor? Because otherwise you end up like the vast majority of people, where your highest attainment may be to be superhuman, meaning that you can get fixed and snipped into perfection by the surgeon,
like a robot.
A robot. So you become a robot, and that is what
like
we're
the
seeing.
the bionic woman.
Exactly. So do you want to be the bionic woman, or do you want to be the divine, super connected woman who maybe doesn't look, quote, as perfect, you know, to the poisoned eye, because our eyes have been poisoned, you know? So we think that this plastic perfection is beauty, but actually it's plastic.
Yeah, also what makes me feel when I hear you speak like this is, when we are truly who we are, then we need to handle all the emotional waves that are coming to our meetings. And when we are robot, there is very little emotional expression.
Totally.
You know, like a lot of women that have a lot of Botox and plastic surgery, they don't deliver expression through their face any longer. And yet the poisoned eyes, as you call it, perceive that as beauty, because then it doesn't mean I have to engage with my heart being in this meeting with this robotic woman. She's beautiful because I don't have to feel too many feelings, and in somehow we can carry on with our disconnection, disconnected radio station. So how beauty become also fits into this society that doesn't want to be challenged.
That's
exactly to feel the deep feeling and the real movement that as human being we are here to engage with.
That's why I always say, if you don't want to be disturbed, don't fast.
Don't do the fast.
Don't go into cellular detoxification, you know, because it's a journey of first deep disturbance and deep realizing or owning also the deep disconnect, the deep state of dis-ease that we have cultivated in our body through unconscious living. Yeah. So it's not a fault, but we have to own the damage that we have done to our bodies without drama, and simply by going, okay, this is what it is, but wow, I have the capacity to reclaim myself back. Also without any great urgency, unless you have acute disease, then yes, things are a little bit more urgent for a while. But the body recovers relatively quickly, you know, as I've discovered. I mean, I was bedridden 5 years ago, and after 2 rounds of fasting, I felt well enough again to see that there was a possibility of life again. you know, which to me, that is what blew my mind. And that is what gave me kind of the kick to share this journey with people, because I realized, for flip's sakes, we're not told this. We are told, I get so many people who've been told, you will never heal from this. You know, this is for life, no matter if it's acne or if it's MS.
Yeah, your disturbance, what we say before, we are all disturbed, and they tell you it's forever. That's
Yes.
who you are.
Sorry.
That's your profile, and learn to live with it.
Yeah.
And when in reality, when you clear the disturbance, when you tune the frequency,
Yes.
your electric body can start to function properly, yeah?
Yeah, it comes alive.
Yeah.
And in that aliveness, that's really where my freedom came from, where I realized, wow, I don't have to be afraid of disease. I don't have to be afraid of living and living my dream, because if my body is so perfect, if it responds so perfectly to nature, if my spirit responds to me loving it, what more is possible? So for me now, the only question really is like, what more is possible? You know,
Yeah.
how much of my dreams, of my and dreams being, you know, of my peculiar or particular dreams, can I manifest? Why? Because what else is there to do?
Yeah.
So that's really the only question.
That's the Dharma. You know,
Yes.
some people think I have to find my mission, and sometimes your mission is just to be you fully, living your dreams to your full potential. It is not something other that you have to look into the world. It's when you stop looking and moving and you look back, it reveals itself to you.
Yeah.
And also what I love you saying, of course, I've got the tantric lens, you know, so for me it's beautiful when reality keeps confirming the fascination of tantrism. For me, it's a love affair. When you say about this discordance of the radio station, the disconnection, in tantrism also we speaks about confusion. It's not that you're stupid.
Yes.
It's not that you're ignorant. It's not that you are evil. It's not that you are sick and broken. No, we said you are confused. It's just a layer of confusion. And if you just clear that, then you're all the other that you're looking for. You're connected. You get to know. You have knowledge, true knowledge, which is divine knowing, that will reconnect you, and then you can manifest. You remember. So, like, it's beautiful to see it this way. It's inspiring that nothing is terminal, that we don't have to live with I was born like this, so that's just how I am. And then we can never become who we would dream, because we have this, you know, condition we are born with. There is none of that. That's what I feel, you know, it's the wisdom you bring with the fasting, with the teaching that you're sharing. And you just got this by personal experience, you know, like with tantrism. I gain it by reading the knowledge and by watching you transforming. I really saw you getting that from your internal knowing. The deeper you went inside, the same teaching surface. It's humbling, and it's really inspiring.
Thank you.
So what is your dream? Living your dream. It's something specific, or it's something that is shaping itself?
Well, I mean, there were several pieces. You know, on one hand, the first piece of the dream was I wanted to live with my children all the time, as in I didn't want to send my children to school. And for the first couple of years, they did go to school, and I just couldn't see how that could change. And then from one day to the next, I realized in order for me to be healthy, which then was connected to their health as well, was I need to take them out of school. They need to be with me. And it's actually only several years later, after having done their human design system, where I get confirmation of how true and right that decision was, you know. And it seemed so crazy at the time, because of course we unschool, so we completely, you know, free, and that was such a big thing. But I just had to listen. It was a physical necessity. And the other thing was I wanted to have this beautiful connection and marriage the way that I imagined it in my imagination with my husband. And somehow we kept falling short a little bit. And now through the process of fasting and everything, it seems like, wow, we've arrived. Like this is my man. I don't have to swap him out. Which for many years that was in the back of my mind. You don't have to change him. Yes, I don't need to change him. He is perfect as he is, and I'm perfect as I am, and we're perfect for one another. And there's been this real landing in the sweetness of our marriage and the perfection of it, and that it's got everything. Like it's got all the flavors that I desired. And now the next dream, in many ways, which is what we're about to realize, 2 steps really. It was living in the tropics, and it was again the physical necessity of living in a place without doors and no windows, and to just be in this beautiful warm weather, fruits available and all of that. And so we're moving to Bali and opening a center there. And that was, part of the dream, to be able to have a place. I mean, people say, oh, you're building a business. I don't feel like I'm building a business. I feel like I'm building a large home for people to come, and for soul family to come and gather and to just heal. So yeah, that and that for me was, and it was a place, like our place is imperfectly perfect. It's not about delivering kind of cookie cutter programs for everybody, but it's about coming and experiencing what does it feel like when you come into a space where your soul is truly nourished, because there is no other agenda than your nourishment of your highest. Which in many ways was what I was always seeking when I was a seeker. I kept looking for a place to land where my soul was seen and nourished and uplifted beyond what maybe the teachers could even fathom, right? So for me, it's like I always see infinite potential in people. I never see limitation. And when people come to us, that's what they get. They get no body, no limit. They get totality. That is what I feel really we give them. Total possibility. Total possibility. The connection to total possibility. And then what you do with that, whether you do something quote big or quote small, it doesn't matter. It's this feeling of like, just do and be your highest joy, and trust that that is what will heal you and give joy to the world and manifest all your dreams. Because I feel like we've made this whole thing so difficult. It's where in reality it's so simple. It's just play and be you in all its facets, right? Instead of like trying to still adapt our facets by being spiritual, by being good,
by being someone that I want to be, someone else.
Yes.
My friend told me the other day, it's apparently these are the line of a song, I tried so hard to be myself, I became someone else. So it's like, who is really here, not the one I wish to be. And, you touched this early in the fast. The beginning is hard because we are undoing all the toxicity we accumulated, often in trying to please other, and so thinking that I'm becoming myself, but actually no, I'm not myself, I'm someone else
completely,
and this someone else needs to fall off me first, and it's painful because we become attached.
It's very painful.
Well,
it's not even so much the attachment. I think it's the having to realize and own that all these parts are actually not who I am. But I can only see who I am not by feeling it. Whereas if I don't want to feel it, which is most people don't want to go there, right? We want to feel only the pleasure. But feeling pain, we go, that's not necessary. There's so much of that going on now, especially in the spiritual development world. Oh no, we don't need to go into pain.
Yes, I hear this a lot. Oh, we don't need to spend time in processing, and I question this for myself. Really, you are telling me it's a bypass from, and pain is so rich, and it contains. I mean, what you said, even to realize what I'm not, it brings me closer to my potential of what I can be. It's very important to have that very clear, and I feel in the fast, my bigger teaching, it is like with everything. First come the pain, and then come the bliss. It's like another muscle. If I can exercise how I can stay present in the pain, then I can stay present in the bliss. Because exactly, let's speak about this a little bit. Also, to be present in the bliss is not so easy.
No.
Everybody wants this high, this joy, and the connection. And it's not easy to be there unless we also practice to be really present in the things I also don't like. It's how's your experience there? Is it easy to be blissful all the time?
Well, no, that was the hardest thing initially. Even in a sense, to be healthy, to have energy was hard because I was so used to feeling tired all the time, feeling brain fogged, feeling so super emotional because, again, my glands were all, messed up. So I was so used to all of those feelings. I was so used to feeling hostage of my eating disorder that when I started to feel healthy and whole, and connected, it was such a foreign experience that even though my body was ready for it, it was kind of like my soul for a long time was still in disbelief. My soul, not my soul, my personality. My personality, that's it. And then I had to let go of my personality. The personality had to fall away. And now, in a sense, there is no more story. There's no more identity even, really. It's like, I don't, there's times really when I have no clue. It's interesting. And this happens especially when I'm fasting. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night when I'm fasting, and because of course there's still deeper layers, that are continuously healing. And I wake up and then I don't know if I'm a man or a woman. I have this moment, usually it lasts maybe like 5 seconds, but where I find myself sort of thinking in my brain, like I try and really strain my brain. I go like, okay, hang on. Am I, like, I know I'm Alex, but am I a man or am I a woman? Or am I Gary? I've had this experience quite a few times. And then I realized, wow, because there is kind of complete dissolution of the personality. And there is just... it's this isness, this is what I am, this is what's moving through me in this moment, and there's no more attachment no more attachment and no more judgment. So to go back on the pain thing, I think the reason why so often we don't want to sit with our pain is really because we judge it. We judge ourselves for feeling pain instead of going, oh, I wonder what this pain is trying to tell me. Like even any pain that happens in the body, pain is always there as a messenger. And the only reason why pain persists is because we're not listening. So when people tell me they've got chronic pain, I say, oh, you haven't been listening for a long time. That's all that is. And typically, very quickly, when they have chronic pain, chronic health issues, we can pinpoint exactly what it is that they haven't been listening to. And then, of course, they want to go and make it, they want to make a story about, no, but hang on, it's because my liver, and it's because my this, and it's because my that. And I say, sure, that's also because the liver, the body, is a physical manifestation of what goes on in our energetic body, But that's secondary. What happens first is, what are you not listening? What are you not living out soul-wise? You know, where is the disconnect?
And for me, that is the erotic wisdom piece, because it's of the body. Eros is of the body, and the body brings wisdom all the time. You know, are we listening or not? But is the Eros of the body is telling you there is pain? That's also an erotic experience.
Yes.
It's of the senses.
Yes, absolutely.
It evokes emotion. And it's not, you know, for me, erotic is not just a sexual experience of being in a sex act with someone else. When I speak about Eros, it's exactly this. The senses evoked in my body, where they are talking to me to guide me somewhere. And so pain also, it's erotic wisdom.
It is.
Interestingly enough.
Yes, if we can change that perception, just as disease, you know, I really feel that my biggest wish for humanity, what I would like to give to humanity, is I would like to take people's fear of disease, and I would really love to turn it around into almost an excitement for a state of disease. Because when there is dis-ease, it means there is an invitation for ease. So if we let go, you know, and this of course it's a whole conversation on its own in some ways, because I can see how, especially for people with chronic disease or with acute cancer stages, they are so caught in their identity, in who they thought they were, that they can't fathom letting go of that enough to become nobody, so that they can become who they truly are.
Yeah.
And that's what kills them.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
What a piece, Alex.
It is.
Beautiful dream you have, to turn fear into excitement of disease. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a big piece.
I guess because I've been so afraid, you know, I've been so afraid for so many years of disease.
I am too. I mean, when I'm preparing this, I'm feeling my own fear, you know. I was asking my daughter, you know, like, what are your fear? What are the fear? What do we fear? And disease is the big one.
It is. But also because as everybody else, we get taught that disease just comes.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the unknown.
Yes, it just hits you, and then you're screwed, basically, you know. And if you're lucky, you can fix it, but oftentimes, you know, you're screwed. And that is such a lie. It is such a lie. Disease is cultivated within our body long before it becomes manifest in the body, first of all. And second of all, no matter how far gone you are, if and when you're willing to let go of everything that you've learned, and you're willing, which of course is a big one, to understand that, you know, your body, it's like a plant. A plant doesn't just die. A plant, if you treat it well, if the soil is good, if there's sun, you know, if all the right conditions are there, there is no way a plant's going to die. Now, my green thumb is non-existent, funny enough, you know, so I've killed many plants. But that's because I realize I haven't given them the right circumstances.
Yeah.
But I realize fully that if nature is so perfect that when the circumstances are right, we can heal and thrive. But of course, the mystery then remains the soul. It's the soul that decides. And so if we are disconnected from our soul the way most of us are, then we are disconnected from our life force that brought you here, that brought us here. And I really believe that every single one of us came here because it's a big force that brought us here. And it's also a unique chance. Like, why did we, out of all the other millions of sperms, you know, why did we manifest? Why did I manifest? Well, because I am a force of nature, as everybody is, with a specific purpose, desire, and mission. And that's what keeps us alive. You know?
But also what I hear you saying is like the plant that needs all the condition in order to thrive. I'm also hearing you saying we need to have the courage to choose our ideal condition. Because few time you told me was my body request when you're describing your dreams. I don't know exactly what you say, but living in the tropic, you said, was my body request. My body request. And it takes courage, because now you have to decide to change country, to pack your children, pack your life as you know it. But if it's that your requirement for this plant that you are, for your soul to thrive, and we said, oh no, I just can't change the house because I just bought it, or whatever is the story.
Which is mostly what we do.
Yeah.
That's usually what we do, right? You know, that's the story of everybody, especially in this corporate world, and you know,
and romance. I just married, I can't divorce, even if the body asks you to move away from toxic relationship, with the mind coming with a lot of story. The house, the wealth, the job, and then I can't change it. And I mean, I know you so well, and I know oftentimes you said, then suffer. Suffer a little longer.
Yes. Yeah, it's like maybe and that's true. You know, that's where it comes back to pain. Pain is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Suffering, as Richard Rudd from the Gene Key says, suffering is grace. You know, when we take it not as self-flagellation, but when we go, okay, wow, I'm suffering, and it's through. I mean, I still suffer. You know, I suffer when I try to wiggle out of fasting. And when I'm in the middle of the fast, I go, oh, but you know, now it's enough because actually my body's healed and so forth. There's suffering, but I no longer identify with the suffering. I soak the suffering up and I use it to propel me forward and to see, okay, what is it asking of me? You know, and to basically not dramatize it, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
When we dramatize suffering, or when we make ourselves a victim through suffering, then it can't serve us. Whereas when we go, oh, okay, I'm suffering, how am I actually enjoying this? You know, what purpose is this suffering serving me? And to realize that even if I don't know what purpose it is serving, I know it is serving a purpose. And already that shifts our mindset, and then we're able to live in this wonderment. And then the answers come, you know, and then the suffering is usually short-lived, actually.
Yeah, even to just become aware that there is suffering, you know, that I'm not the suffering, but today I'm experiencing a lot of suffering. Why? What's out of alignment? Where is my mind going? You know, what am I thinking that creates suffering, my suffering? Why am I thinking this way? And can I change it, or can I ask for help? You know, sometimes, I mean, I remember in my fasting, because you inspire me a lot. I mean, I also never thought in my life I would have fasted. It was like a thing that I always judged about people that were doing this thing, and doing colonic was really, I always thought, wow, if the colon is full of shit, it's because it's meant to be there. And, you know, so I shifted my understanding hugely through you. You know, and you helped me make sense of a lot of things. And so in my fast, you were my, how do you call it, lifeline, you know, because I remember going into despair and making it about me and going into the drama, and was enough to reach out, and you would just help me to see it in a different way, or to go, good, it's grace, oh, you're suffering. And just to have that peace would take the drama out of the process. And then we can look at it just as a process of growth and expansion, part of a journey that is much greater. And I remember I would turn that pain into excitement. That's exactly what you say. You're working your dream very well, to turn the fear of disease into excitement.
Yes.
You are great at doing that.
I really feel, yes, I feel that. And I feel that for everybody. almost when people come and say, oh, whatever, like I've got stage 4 cancer, or I've got, adrenal fatigue, whatever. It's like, wow, this is exciting, because it means your soul is really wanting to direct you towards something greater,
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a famous person or whatever, because greater can simply mean like, what is your greatest joy?
Yeah.
That's all. I really believe our soul, we come here not to experience suffering. The suffering is so that we can experience the joy that we came here to experience, and that the world needs more people in their highest joy, more people living a sweet marriage, more people being blissfully happy, because what are we doing here otherwise?
Yeah. Beautiful. Wow, you throw so many pearls. I'm really absorbing everything you're saying, and I had a question for you that now I've forgotten, because this piece where you say, that we didn't come here to suffer, but the suffering is to point us to the greatest joy. And so it's a process, but it's not the ending. That life is, we need to survive life. I grew up with my father always speaking about survival.
Yes.
No one spoke about living life.
Yes.
We need to survive. How do we survive this living? Like, it's the biggest effort ever. And we are thrown here to just survive the pain. It was never a conversation that after this, okay, let's get the pain, let's get our teeth into the pain, so that then there is the joy that is pointing towards. But
Well, and there all we need to do is look at nature. That's why one of my greatest really detoxification teachers, oftentimes the greatest teachers tell us few things, but those few things are so poignant and life-changing. And he said, just observe, study, and understand nature. Just really observe, study, and understand nature, and then imitate it. And when he first said that, I was like, okay. And I started to really think about it, because I honor who he is. And I thought, okay, if he said that so poignantly, there must be something really about it. And in the fasting, I really started to understand, look at nature. Nature is there. It thrives. It's lush. It's celebratory. It's there to be fully expressed. It doesn't compete with one another.
yeah.
Sure, every now and again, big hoo-has, whether it's, volcano eruptions or storms or whatever happen, but everything is there to reestablish a greater order. And there's just this joyful thriving in nature. And that it's only us really who in many ways live life, many of us, like it's a chore.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing, and also that there is no medal at the end of the day for anything. No matter how much you quote achieve, because I grew up with this idea that like achieving something that you were acknowledged for by others was important. And I tried that route until I realized, but that's so not my highest priority. Like I personally really don't care in the least about what other people think of me. Almost to the point where, some can say, well, that's arrogant, but that's because like I really don't care. The only thing that I do care is, am I living my highest joy? Because I feel like that's the highest service to God that I can give. So if I'm not living in my highest joy, it's a little bit like saying to God, well, I'm not appreciating the life that you gave me.
Yeah, it's like a tree being doubtful about its flowers.
Yes.
And not flowering, just
not
Sure.
today.
Not today.
I'm not going to show my full colors.
Yeah. Just in case it's too much and someone is not going to like them.
Yes.
I got this flower here, but Yeah, let me keep it there for later,
Yes,
maybe.
we'll save
When
it.
no one is watching, and maybe I'll just show it. And in this, like even you spoke about volcano, even the volcano erupting is expressing itself. It's the fire inside, and it's red, and it's powerful, and it's expression. And you know what? So we were saying, just a little technical glitch, that yeah, like nature offer itself. It doesn't wait. Like a volcano explodes in an expression of its innermost nature, and is fiery and is red and is destructive.
Yeah.
Distruttivo. And he's not worried about the mess he's gonna make. It also generates waves, and there is like a sequence of event, but he's not worried about expressing its innermost nature. And I found that us human, we are so worried to express our deepest, most innermost nature. We always worried about the consequences more than what do we do when we don't do that, when we suppress ourselves. We're not looking at the disease we create in ourselves. We give more value about the consequences. People are not going to like me. And again, we go back to the fear. My fear is to be, how do you say, disconnected and abandoned and not liked and not loved, not included. You know, when I go into the core fear, the ultimate peace is there. But if I am really completely myself, who I am, what if I'm not going to be liked and I'm going to end up alone? And then disconnection.
Which again is such a, it's really a crazy thought if we think about
Yes.
it, because it's like the flower example. And that is where I had during the fasting such an epiphany. I was looking out this very window, and I was looking at the bees gathering around the flowers and going in and being so excited about sucking the pollen out. And I could just feel this joyful dance that nature is in, like the flower doesn't go, oh, bee, go away, I don't want you here, not today, fuck off.
You're buzzing too loud.
Yeah, or not you, only the other one can come.
Yeah.
Things like this.
Preferences.
Yes, there's no preference. It's just nature is there. It's an offering. It's a spectacle. And so I had this realization of how completely crazy and insane and confused the idea is that we could possibly be unlovable if we are who we are.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying the sun could not be liked if it's too hot.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thought.
It's a crazy thought. It's a thought that it comes from disconnection. Someone instilled that along the way in our growing mind.
Well, I think it's it's ingrained in our collective consciousness. And on the other hand, that also there's nothing wrong with that thought process and belief. We had to go there so that we could realize the opposite. And I'd like to end with this thought that even our so-called ugly bits, and which could be like our mean part or our jealous part or whatever we want to call it, that even that ugly part has a place, because I feel, especially in spiritual realms, again, there is so much shame about our shadow, so much shame about not being always perfectly poised and just and aligned and all of that. And I feel, because we are on this evolutionary journey, even our ugly bits, so-called ugly bits, because in essence there is no ugly bit, serve a purpose. And to trust what we feel. So, sometimes, like in my experience, concretely, I've had this feeling where I just felt like, I don't want this person in my life anymore. My body says no. But I can't just go out into society and say, excuse me, Valentina, my body said no to you. And so then we need to make a story,
Yeah.
almost, and instead of trusting that story, because I feel that nature, existence, will present that story perfectly so that we can say no, but then we often don't trust it, because we want to be polite, we want to be kind, we want to be spiritual. We have stories.
We need that person for something, and so we
Yes.
override the intuition, the erotic intuition, and we said, okay, no, I can't do
Right.
this.
Instead of trusting that voice, and trusting means not judging it.
Yeah.
Even if other people, because I've had that very situation where then people want to make me wrong, unspiritual, or whatever. And it's like, no, I am living my truth. I'm not perfect, but also we don't need to be perfect in order to be true. It's like our truth is an evolutionary process. And as long as we are present to what is true, we will grow, we will flourish, we will serve the world, even with our, quote, badness.
And I just have one last question for you, actually, because it's a piece like when you say you have a client that comes to you with stage 4 cancer, and you suggesting maybe to go completely opposite what mainstream say. Again, that piece for me of, aren't you afraid that they're gonna die? Because you come across so fierceless, is so inspiring, and what you're saying is to trust, is not to judge your intuition. And so how do you manage this? Because I know you have a lot of success story where actually they follow your insight and they got better, they healed themselves. So what is that piece that you trust in those moments which are really pivotal? Because again, it's the big piece we're talking here, this whole interview, the fear of dying. Because if you're gonna be wrong, they'll die. Chances are they were dying anyway. But of course the story would say, I didn't make them die, it wasn't my responsibility. As if I also wasn't part of the biggest movement, like all this crazy thought. But for you, where do you find that alignment and strength to stay pure in what you know to be true, although it might appear crazy?
Well, I guess because for me it is so true. Like for me, that this is the truth, and it's repeatedly my experience. Even in my own life, I've had repeated moments throughout my healing process where I thought, oh fuck, now I'm screwing myself and I'm making things worse because I had a big healing crisis or something. But the point is, I still, 5 years on, see how the deeper I go, the better I get. So, it's like trusting the process. It's kind of like a mountain climber who knows the mountain so well, and people who have never been up that mountain can go, are you sure we can make it past this big rock? And they'll go, yeah, of course we can make it. I've been here 10 times, So in that sense, it's because of my own experience. And at the same time, I fully realize that the person that I work with also needs to be able to completely, it's not even trust me, because it's not about me. They need to trust themselves and their body and their life. So they need to understand what they're doing. And that's why most of the work that I do with people is not so much around food or the herbs or whatever. It's really about them trusting their own life force, their soul purpose, and to really work on that. So in some ways, we don't really work on healing the body. The body is kind of like the mechanics, but we really our main work is with the soul. And as long as I feel the soul is growing, so in some ways, like I keep elevating and growing the soul. And I say, don't worry about the body. The body will come along. You are you, and that is what I repeatedly see is the main work. Whereas when people don't want to do that kind of work, then I feel like my hands are tied, because then like I really don't know So in a sense, I'm the complete opposite of a doctor. Whereas a doctor can help you with the mechanics and can fix you up. Not always, because in my case, doctor didn't help. But the doctor can often fix you up and make you good, at least for now. I can't do that. I can't fix you up. I feel I can only heal all of you or nothing. There's no in between.
It also feels like you're a spiritual midwife. Like I can help you birthing yourself, but you are birthing.
Yes.
I can't. And if you don't want to be birthing, there is nothing I can do for you.
Yes, that's really
that's
it.
what you request. You choose to be here with me, or
yeah.
Wow, thank you, Alex. This is so inspiring.
Thank you.
So I'm sure that whoever is listening will be curious, will be intrigued maybe to get in touch with you.
Yes.
So how do they go about if people wants to work with you?
Yes, it's the website, livingmucusfree.com, very easy. Living mucus free, which ultimately is all about living free, because once we eliminate the mucus, which is not just the physical mucus but also the disturbance, the energetic disturbance and gunk, then we come to live free. So livingmucusfree.com, either the website or on Instagram. They can
and Facebook
find
as well.
Facebook as well, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
This was exquisite.
Yeah, I'm so inspired to start another fast again. And and birth myself more and more. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Blessings.
Thank you.
And for everybody listening, you can just keep following the podcast on eroticwisdom.com and give me any suggestion, any criticism, and help me also grow into this new project of mine. And until the next time, love to all. Ciao.